Welcome back to We Like That podcast.
Because we like that. Howdy, 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 howdy. I'm Joe.
And I'm Calvin.
Welcome back to We Like That podcast.
Because we like that. Yes, the howdy thing is permanent now.
I really like it. It's cowboy season.
So the shows will be going over today. It's 90 Day Fiance, Season 11, Episode 17, Too Late for Love. 90 Day Hunt for Love. Episode 3, The Boy Who Loved His Own Face.
Yep. The Boy Who Loved His Own Face is the name of that episode.
That's weird.
You're talking about Rob.
Titles. Okay, sure. And new viewer show that a show that one of our listeners told us to kind of check out. We decided to look at the trailer and it was very interesting. It's called The Mortician. It's on HBO Max. Pretty much about a mortician who decided to do really jacked up stuff with dead bodies.
We'll get to it.
But we're going to start with Dat Happened with Joe. That Happened with Joe.
All right. It's all WWE oriented, so if you want to skip, you can skip. But Ron Killings is back. So after all of the backlash of releasing Ron Killings, aka R-Truth.
Thank you.
They brought him back. He showed back up for one of their premium live events. I forget what it's called. I think it was Money in the Bank. He showed up for Money in the Bank and he totally trashed Cena.
I got money in the bank. What do you think?
And then on Monday Night Raw, he gave a speech of how R-Truth is gone. Ron Killings is here. And he cut off his dreads in the middle of the ring.
Okay.
And then last night, allegedly, I haven't watched it yet, but in SmackDown, he shows back up again to trash Cena with a new bald head. So there's a new turn happening with Ron Killings. Some people are saying that this is going to be his heel turn. People who have been fans of his forever and saw his turn in TNA saw this Ron Killings. They saw the Ron Killings that was like, I don't care, full damage, nonstop. Like the nice R-Truth joking around, silly persona gone. Now who's running the show is Ron Killings. And so Bubba Ray Dudley gave his opinion on what he thought about the turn was. I'd play the clip, but it's so long. But basically, Bubba Ray goes on to talk about how like he doesn't like that Ron Killings is getting rid of the truth gimmick, basically. Like if he's going to get rid of it, then he shouldn't mention it. He shouldn't talk about it. There shouldn't be anything associated with R-Truth. Ron Killings gets interviewed on another podcast about what his response to Bubba is, and he goes off. He says, he starts cursing. He's like, who is he to tell me who I am? And it sent a lot of the fans into conversations about, did Bubba take it too far? Is Ron taking it too far? Is Bubba being a hater? Is Ron Killings going off the deep end to prove something? And I think all of that is the point of this. I think that's the point. I don't think Bubba Ray was coming at it sideways in any way. He's somebody who's very opinionated. He says he talks a lot of crap. And apparently, if you watched him in ring when he was with ECW and later WWE, that's his whole persona, is he talks a lot of shit. So I don't think it was surprising that he would do that. I also feel like it helps with the turn for Ron Killings, so that it's something for Ron to react to like he did, which causes more discourse, aka heat, which is the whole goal of this anyway, is to get people talking. What did you think?
I just think, I don't know, because a portion of me knows it's probably the WWE trying to put a new spin and some new heat on him.
On Ron Killings?
Yes.
Okay.
With the whole R-Truth dead and the whole new turn they're taking to bring fresh new, I guess, a breath of fresh air into his character.
I don't know that it's their call. I think it's his call. So there's been other interviews with Ron Killings, with him as his R-Truth persona, where he talks about how, like, even though he's glad that the gimmick went over of being like this like jester type persona, he kind of regretted it because that's not really how he wants to move in terms of storyline for his character. He wanted to do something more serious. And with him almost being released, them negotiating to bring him back, I wouldn't be surprised if part of that negotiation was him being like, I'm not doing R-Truth anymore. We're going to do something else. And this is how we're getting Ron Killings.
because he was the slapstick. He was the
comedic relief.
Sure, if that's what you want to call it.
What do you want to call it?
He was the Amos and Andy. That's what he was.
Mm-hmm.
Bobo the Clown, if you want to call it. That's what he was. That's what they saw him as. They didn't try to further his character. They didn't try to put him in no championship matches. They didn't try to further his career.
R-Truth actually held the belt with the Miz. They were a what do they call them? Yeah, they were tag team champs.
Okay, sure. What, 2 days?
For a while, actually.
Sure. He was the comic relief.
Okay.
So, and then after that, they didn't have too much to do with him. All his job was to do was come in the ring, make people laugh, and then leave. So, he was like the mascot.
Okay.
He was the mascot.
Mm-hmm.
And he got tired of being a mascot, so good for him.
I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this. Are they going to give him more screen time? Is he going to go up after Cena?
Honestly, probably doubt it, because when Cena's done, he's probably going to go back to being, I hope he doesn't, but he's probably going to go back to being the mascot.
Ron is in his 50s, almost 60s. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's also about to retire.
Yeah, it is what it is. I don't know.
All right. That's all I got for Dat Happened.
Skinny about that happened with Joe. Going into Worth the Watch, The Mortician. What do you think about the show so far?
It's good. It's good. It's got the intrigue. It's got the messiness if you like a little bit of drama. If you are into true crime, you got that as well. It will definitely have you questioning a lot of things. Like, who knew? Who didn't know? How deep did this go? Who made the decisions? So, I liked it.
So, pretty much The Mortician is about this LA's most infamous family who ran a mortuary. It's about the David Scones, who took over the Lamb Funeral Home and engaged in morally questionable and inhumane practices.
Inhumane.
With dead bodies.
For money. Yep.
He really wasn't in charge of the Lamb Funeral Home.
Yes, he was.
Mainly his mom and her husband, his dad and the mom. He was in charge of the cremation factory. Crematory. That's what they call it.
His mom bought the business from her dad, right?
Yes.
So there's a whole history about the Lambs being funeral directors in Pasadena, California since like the 1920s. It gets founded in 1929. They're a known name in Pasadena, especially in terms of old Pasadena. They're like pillars of the community. David's mother is the daughter of the Lamb family. And she marries this other guy named Jerry Scones. And that's how David comes into the picture. Jerry and his mother, Lorianne, they bought the funeral business from her father to take it over and continue it being in the family. When David gets of age and screws up his knee because he was trying to be a football player, he then takes over as well. So he starts running the business. So he did run the business, the Lamb Funeral Home and the crematorium, but he dealt with the day-to-day on the crematorium solely. He left the funeral services to his mother because he didn't care about that stuff. So his mom and his dad did the funeral home services and he did the crematorium, but he was running the show.
His mom was running. They said his mom was running everything.
Like behind the scenes, yeah. But like on paper, like who was taking the directorship, it was David.
Sure. Okay. I thought they said his mom was doing the books and all that stuff.
Doing the books doesn't mean you're not the director.
Okay. Sure. So, at the beginning of the film, we see David getting out of jail in 2023, and this is I guess the filming starts, and we start to get the background of the Lamb family.
Actually, I don't think that's when it started, because remember they're interviewing that lady, and she's like, "Are you going to be able to interview David Scones?" And he's like, "He's currently incarcerated, but hopefully soon."
Yes.
So he was still in jail when they started.
So when they started the filming, he was still in jail. They talked to some other a lady
from Cypress College which is known for their mortuary services.
Which I guess David attended school to get his certification.
I'll get his degree. You have to have a degree in mortuary sciences.
Certification degree, same thing.
Not.
Yeah, same thing. Sure. It's a piece of paper. That's all it is. Certification
takes a year. A degree takes 4.
Piece of paper. They said that he's allowed to do mortuary stuff. The lady who they talked to is very excited if they could get to talk to him.
She's excited about everything. She gives the lay down of like what it means to be somebody who's a mortician. And she just talks about how like when it comes to dealing with death, especially as a mortician, there's a lot of care that comes with it. You're there at somebody's most vulnerable point, the family's most vulnerable point. And, you know, you're supposed to be treat this with care and grace and try to make it as humane as possible for everybody during this really difficult period. And she's like, but, you know, every industry has their bad apples. And that's when she gets really excited about David. Because he's a bad apple.
So finally, David's part of the business. He's part of the business now. Did they say why he leaned more to the crematory?
Yeah, the crematorium.
Yeah, why?
So David he didn't want to do funeral services at all, but he ends up having to do it because he stepped on a gopher hole and ruined his knee.
Yeah, I get that.
For football.
But why did he not?
He doesn't like people. He didn't want to be at the front and deal with people. So the crematorium was the best option for him.
And his mom was better at dealing with people.
Yes. The other thing was he said he learned at 12 how to embalm somebody, which is insane.
Not really.
A person, Calvin? A person.
If that's what your family job is. That's like you growing up in a family business and then having a restaurant and then putting you in the kitchen to teach you and have you how to cook at an early age. That's the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
It's pretty much the same thing. It's learning your trade. It'd
be like if you learned how to butcher something at the age of 12.
Same thing, yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is that young age and learning what he learned at that young age, I think it helps set the precedent for him that these aren't people anymore. These are just things.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Because he was 12 doing this.
I think when you start making money, that's when things start getting diluted, to me.
They hint that David's always had this disposition with the first wife.
Yeah.
And her kind of being warned by his family. Like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure? With him? Are you positive? So they're very much setting the intent that he doesn't have empathy at all.
Okay. That has nothing to do with being a mortician.
It has a great deal about being with a mortician. That's why it was offset to that lady who was talking about how you have to be super empathetic to people during their struggle.
That could have been something he learned as a child, not just because he was dealing with dead bodies and all that stuff. I don't think the two are exclusive.
What I'm saying is the normalization that these are no longer people was set very early in his life. Pretty early in his life.
That's if someone was teaching him that these
He learned to embalm a body at 12. A human body at 12.
The person who was training him or teaching him had empathy for those people. I think he had empathy.
I don't think they did. We'll get into what my theory is and what your theory is about this family. But I don't think they did either.
Okay, but then I agree with you.
To me further pushes my argument that he learned at a very young age that they don't matter.
Then yeah, if that person he was learning from didn't care, then he would, that'll help kind of build your emotions of how to do your job. So David,
so he takes over the crematorium.
Yeah.
And he took over the crematorium because he didn't want to be the front dealing with people and their feelings.
So
crematorium made the most sense to him. But he's also taken over this crematorium while he's going to school.
So he's talking to people at school and he's, I guess, noticing that all the other funeral homes don't have their own crematorium, and they're traveling around far places to get their bodies cremated and do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he decides to come up with an idea to put in, I guess, something in the paper.
Mm-mm.
I think he put ads in the paper too.
No, that was later, but it was all word of mouth at first.
At first, word of mouth said he would cremate bodies for less.
He was talking to other people who were working at other funeral homes. Then he started reaching out to other morticianary services. and undercutting the competitors, the other crematoriums. So they would use his crematorium because he had access to a private one. The only people that used the Pasadena crematorium was the Lamb family. So he had access to a location that no one else was using. So word of mouth, it making its rounds. And then eventually, no, I don't think he ever put an ad in.
They showed him with an ad saying he like 55 for this, 55 for that in a paper.
You sure that wasn't Tim Waters? Tim Waters did that.
It was written down. I saw that. It was like prices for cremation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much what he did was he cornered the market. He pretty much sold his services for cheaper than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody pretty much started sending their bodies to him. What started to happen is people was like, wait a minute, how is he getting all this business and cremating all these bodies?
People weren't doing that at all. One person in particular.
How is he?
And it took a minute for that to happen.
So he's making all this money. He's pretty much the king of cremation in Pasadena now. And there's one competitor at another funeral home called Tim Waters, who's like, maybe I should see what he's talking about with his business of cremation. I guess him and Tim have a conversation. Tim comes back and is like, wait a minute.
They never have a conversation. He said he never talked to the guy, remember?
Mm-hmm. He said he never talked to the guy, but they had a conversation about him possibly doing his cremations for him. They had a meeting.
He had a meeting with the family. So the funeral home.
David was there too. Because Tim came back and told somebody else, I don't trust that David guy. Something's not right.
But he didn't do that out of concern. He did that to mess with his business. Because Tim had his own business.
Yeah. But they
didn't meet until the night he died.
They said Tim said he talked to him, or they had a meeting about him doing business with him about the cremation.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he came back and said this family, something's wrong. There's no way they're cremating all these bodies.
I thought it was Tim trying to secure. He was trying to secure cremation services with another hospital, and they said they were already doing business with David, and that's when he was like, "Something's going on with this."
He noticed they were doing all the business. Then him and Dave started talking about doing business with each other for that. That's when he came back. It's like, something's not adding up. You got all these bodies. You getting all this clientele. There's no way you're able to do it the right way.
Tim came to that conclusion because how low he was charging everybody. He's like, the only way you would counter that is with a high volume. From what I remember, David and him never had a discussion about sharing the business.
I swear they said they had a conversation about Tim giving David his business to cremate his bodies for his funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
And after that talk, that's when Tim came back.
But Tim didn't have a funeral home. He only had a crematorium. That's what Alpha Society was. There weren't funeral services associated with that. It was just a crematorium.
Okay, I'm confused. I thought that was a whole funeral home.
No, it was just crematorium services.
Okay, whatever. You can take on.
You also went to sleep for a little bit. But anyway.
Well, sure, whatever.
Point is, there's another guy in the game. So David he takes his family business of burning bodies from like 187 a year to like thousands a year. And it just continues to quadruple as each year goes on. From like 81 to 80, I want to say 86, 87. He starts burning like 30, 40,000 bodies a year, which is insane. Given how the process of cremation is supposed to work. You're supposed to burn like one body. Takes about 2 hours. You're supposed to let that thing cool down before you move on to the next procedure. He was not doing that at all. He was lumping them in there. He was shoving them in there.
When this show first starts, you get introduced to this lady who's talking about her father and how she had him cremated. The container she has her father in, Javon, is like a tea bag.
Tea box.
And she's like, yeah, we had him cremated, and this is his remains and all that stuff.
They split the remains. That's why that box is so little. They split the remains amongst the family.
And the family got a piece of his remains.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to people trying to figure out, or other competition trying to figure out how this dude is doing this legally. And
not other competition, just Tim. This guy named Tim Waters was like, how is he doing all of this? And he starts asking a lot of questions. And then he tries to push a narrative basically through Mortuary Management, which is their morticians like newsletter. And an article was going to get released that kind of painted the Lamb family mortuary in a bad light. And David allegedly sent his guys after him.
What happened was the person that was helping Tim write the article piece.
Tim wasn't writing it at all.
That's what I said. The guy who was helping Tim write the article piece sent.
Him write it makes it sound like Tim's writing it.
No, I said the person who was helping Tim.
The person who was writing the article. Yeah.
The person who was writing the article for Tim went to the Lamb family mortuary or called the mom, and the mom got spooked and scared. The mom told David. David told the mom he'd handle it, and that's when David sent some football players. Like, I don't even know. Did he play football with these guys?
Yeah, they're all they're ex-college football players.
To the writer of the Peace House and Tim's house.
But these guys work for him. He calls them. It's in the notes, actually. He gave them a name. They helped move the bodies. They helped, I guess, roughhouse whoever they wanted to roughhouse. He called them like Big Guys Unlimited or something, and that's who he sends that way.
What? This is like bodies.
Yeah, Big Men Unlimited.
Big Men Unlimited. And he sent those guys to
allegedly.
He sent those guys to the writer's house and to Tim Waters' house,
and beats him up.
The guy who went to Tim's Waters' house beats Tim.
It was more than one guy.
Beats Tim Waters really, really bad.
I think it was really, really bad because I actually had photos of it. They didn't have photos of the other guy.
The other guy said,
I wonder if it was just really, really bad because of the photos.
The other guy said even the guy who went to the other guy's house, and the other guy was like, they knocked me around.
Mm-hmm.
But what they did with Tim was insane.
They don't interview Haste. That's the guy that they would have knocked around.
So that happens. Also, at the crematory, David has pretty much 2 crackheads working for him at the crematory. Which is insane to me. Who are ex-gang members. Do we even have their name?
We only have one name, Johnny.
A crackhead named Johnny, and Johnny's best friend, who is in a documentary, but he's
staying incognito. He doesn't want his information released or his face. He's just labeled as former employee.
And they talk about how they would have them
break these bodies down and stuff them in the kiln.
14, sometimes 15 different bodies into the burner.
They would have to break bones to make them fit.
Also, how they would have competition to see who can stuff the most bodies into these burners.
Which is insane.
And then the friend who didn't want to be named talked about how they also would steal from the dead. Meaning if they had good clothes on, they'll take the clothes off. Resell the shoes,
jewelry.
They take the jewelry off.
Gold from the teeth.
They also started taking gold tooth out, which
they started taking teeth out.
And he would take home a cup. His wife tells the story how he would bring home a cup says AU. If you know anything about the periodic table, AU stands for gold. He would go, and she said he would go in the garage, and she would him
hammering at the teeth.
He would take the gold out, put it in the cup, and then he would sweep the teeth, whatever remains of the teeth, out the way. And she said she felt kind of uneasy, but was like, whatever.
Because she was rich. She also had there was a lot of money coming their way. He was doing weird stuff, but they were also rich. And there's just a lot of shady stuff that was happening. So he's cremating all these bodies. He's undercutting all his competition. He's making a ridiculous amount of money. They're grave robbing, essentially. They're stealing stuff off of the bodies also. And then Tim Waters dies randomly. And people are like, that's a little weird. The rumor is that he was out to dinner with David and then just dropped dead. And they were like, that's bizarre. And then there's a long-standing rumor that David was responsible for the death, that he may have poisoned Tim Waters to get him out of the way.
Tim died at 86.
And supposedly of a heart attack.
And at this time, David was pretty much burning well over 25,000 bodies.
Oh, no, Tim died in 85.
Tim died in 85. 86 rolls around, and they pretty much say that he's already burned at least 25,000 bodies at this time. I think it was like 25,282, if I'm not mistaken.
It's still an estimate. They don't really know the exact number.
That's true, too.
So well over 25,000 is sufficient. It's sufficient.
But on the day before Thanksgiving, stuff starts to hit the fan. So
of 86, yeah.
So what ends up happening is one of the crackheads.
No, both. He said both of them. They both got high and then just left.
Well, the one in black said it was him. He said he was supposed to. I don't know why he left the burners on, but he left the burners on. He said he went to go smoke or get high or whatever. He was going to come back, close the place up, and shut the place down. He forgot to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And that next morning, they woke up to pretty much
the remains of the crematorium.
Crematorium is up in smokes.
Somebody got a call saying that the crematorium was on fire.
David told them that the crematorium was on fire.
I thought Lorianne called Johnny.
I don't know. Somebody called somebody and let them know, hey, you need to get down here. It's on fire.
I thought Lorianne called Johnny and was like, the crematorium's on fire because he was making fun of her voice.
Okay. So he got called, and that's when they showed David, like, these two crackheads were getting high, and they left and burnt my place down. But I'm like, dude, you left your business in the hands of crackheads. They got crack to smoke, stuff to do.
The other thing is, it doesn't stop his business. It doesn't slow it down at all.
So by this time, I guess David had other little businesses and other little places where he was doing business. So he decides to take his
move operation
to this
a ceramic place. It's called Oscar Ceramics in Asper, California. It's a little ways away from where they were in Pasadena. And it's a ceramic kiln. So if you know anything about ceramics, there's also an oven that's used to make the ceramic, to harden the glaze and the clay and whatever. The thing about a ceramic kiln, though, is that they're not made for burning bodies. It doesn't get hot enough to burn bodies at the rate that you need it to for a mortuary service or a crematorium. But that's what he uses.
So
the people of San Bernardino, which is where the county that Asper's in,
in 87 start complaining about the air quality.
Yeah. And allegedly, they have World War II vets that are down that way, and they're complaining about the smell. And they're like, the smell smells like Auschwitz, which was known for having the ovens. The Nazis had human ovens, crematoriums, where they were shoveling people in to exterminate them. It's a very distinct smell. So that is crazy that these vets remembered it from so many years ago. And then when it gets investigated, yeah, there's bodies in there.
So Johnny is pretty much not allowing the people to go in. He calls David and says, hey, these people are here trying to investigate what's going on down here. And finally, I guess the police come, and then Johnny just gets out of the way and opens the door.
Well, because at first it was just the air quality inspector who was like, let me see your facility. And he was like, no. No. And then it's the air inspector and the firemen. And he's like, no. And then the cops finally come with them. And he's like, damn it, fine.
So Johnny already knows the gig is up.
They find it weird because Johnny's not in the building. He's doing all his work apparently from the car. And he says he can't do it in the building because it's too smoky. And they're like, why is it too smoky?
And
what ceramics are you making?
Exactly. They go in, they shut down all the burners, and they find the skeletons and some of the remains. Some have charred bodies.
They can still see skin on some of the bodies because it's not hot enough for it to burn at the rate they need it to burn. And this is still the same people that are crowding these kilns. They're trying to put as many bodies in there at one time.
And once that happens, we start to find cracks in the Lamb's funeral business.
Well, the law enforcement is searching for cracks in the Lamb family business because apparently just burning the bodies at the ceramics place would only give you a misdemeanor. It wouldn't be enough to hold a charge.
Which David already knew.
Which is crazy. So they were like, I wonder if there's anything felonious. Like, is there a felony that can be pinned on here? Even though they had barrels of prosthesis, I would think that all of that would count as a felony, but no. Well, whatever. But there's also a guy who's doing a news article. There's a guy that kind of got tipped off of what's going on with David and the Lamb family. He's starting to put like 2 and 2 together, and as an investigative reporter, he's trying to like push this new story of like what exactly is going on with the Lamb family. So between that investigator plus the police investigation that's going on, that's when they discover that the Lambs aren't exactly who the city thought they were.
So when this guy puts out his article at first, he starts to get flack from the town saying, how dare you say this about the Lamb family? And what's his mother's name?
Lorianne.
Lorianne is
she's a saint, according to the
She's
city.
an angel. She's the right hand of God. How dare you talk about this woman?
A lot of the people that they interview who talk about Lorianne, they talk about how saintly this woman was. Like almost how angelic she was. She was so kind and she was so nice.
She comforted the family during the time of grieving. She actually played the organ for the festivities and the funeral service.
She chose the flowers. She did the hair. Like she was very good as like a front person to greet all these people.
Little did they know she was the mastermind behind the evil plan.
I don't know about mastermind, but she definitely was helping to push it. It wasn't just a David situation, which is kind of what you're led to believe at first with the documentary, was like it's just David doing this outside of the family's knowledge. But no, the family knows.
So we find out that I guess the guy who was doing their books.
Mm-hmm. No, she was doing the books. But he was at the tax preparer.
So the tax preparer notices that there's money missing.
No, there's money not being reported.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's money not being reported. And Lorianne goes, huh? Lorianne goes, huh? What are you talking about?
She's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you've taken a lot of money for these, what do they call them? Like basically pre-cases. These are people who are putting money down to solicit their services once their person has passed. So this person's probably in hospice or something, and she's taking these deposits from them, but she's not reporting them as income at all. And she basically had raked close to $100,000 when he caught it, and then she still didn't do anything to report it. So the police were like, excellent. Felony.
Excellent. One down. One crime. Let's see what else can we find.
But they also find photos from the funeral services, from the mortuary services before the bodies are put into the cremation. And in the photo, it looks like it's labeled, preparing the bodies for the services. But the forensic experts are like, that's harvesting. They're doing tissue harvesting on those bodies. And we find out David was also, not in addition to grave robbing and just burning all these bodies in what lump sum, he was selling their organs and tissue to schools, to academies, other institutions for science.
This was actually the funeral home doing this too.
Yeah, he's attached to the funeral home, Calvin.
But they all were in on it.
Yes.
On this particular scheme.
They were in on all of it.
You know what? Thinking about it, I thought David was more
the leader for this. He was
the
pushing
leader
a
for
lot
the
of this, you think?
Cremation stuff. And stealing, taking the teeth out and all stuff for that. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the funeral home was behind the organ and tissue thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you mention it, you're right. I think it was one big. I think they knew
family business.
Yeah, I think they knew what he was doing, and he just stayed out of the way.
Yeah, it was a family business. And he was bringing in new avenues of income for them.
And they just concentrated on what they already knew and what they were already doing, which was
the body harvesting
stuff.
But also the grave robbing. They knew about that too.
Yeah. And, the taking out teeth.
And selling the shoes and the clothes.
Yeah. Then you get David saying, well, I learned how to do this by walking in on my grandfather, I guess he said.
Who he saw his grandfather taking the gold out of teeth.
And harvesting
organs
and stuff. Because they had a guy there who worked for UCLA's eye something or whatever.
Yes. It was like an eye tissue institution where they study eye.
And he was there and he saw him like take the eye out or whatever, do whatever he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
David's like, well,
I can get you more eyes.
Yeah, we can set up this business and we can do this way.
You did bring up a good point, though, that David's dealing in exclusively dead bodies. So you're like, how viable are these organs? Because these people have already passed. And David basically confirms, like, listen, if we have 1,000 bodies and only 100 are good, that's at least 100 that I can bill services for. And we also find out how they were technically organ harvesting, but like in his eyes legally. because they weren't billing for the body parts. They were billing for the services to extract the tissue and the organs. So therefore, it was legal according to him. But they were housing it like a warehouse, like it was meat. So it was crazy.
So they finally bring them up on charges.
What did you think about Lorianne's involvement in that? Like telling the driver to check on the eye condition and put drops in the eye if they're too dry.
Seems like she was trying to sell bad eyes. That's what it sounded like to me. At first, I thought they were talking about her dad.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, she want to sell her dad organs? That's crazy.
When they brought up the story about how they brought the car up to get the grandfather, they were talking about how like she wasn't affected by the passing. That's what they were talking about. Like how David's demeanor when it comes to a dead body is like very cold and very apathetic, like it's not a thing anymore. That was her personality as well.
To me, that wouldn't bother me because I'm like, she works with death all the time. That's part of her life.
But it's jarring from the person who's supposed to be super empathetic. She positions herself to be this person that's like super in tune with the emotions of the family. Like just very supportive, matriarchal type person.
I get what
and
you're
then
saying.
All of a sudden she could care less. Like that's a jarring distinction.
At the same time too, I was thinking maybe she has to do her dad's funeral and get his body prepped and ready. Mm-hmm. So she's just prepping herself to be able to do what she needs to do.
I feel like there's a difference between keeping it businesslike so you can get through it and being cold. I feel like there's a difference.
In my mind, when she's by herself, she's balling. She's letting it go. In my mind.
But that's what she wants you to do. That's what she wants you to project.
Think? That's what she wants you to think?
That's what she projects, yes.
That's what I'm thinking she's doing.
But the point was she wasn't. That was the point.
But we don't know.
We do know.
We don't really know.
They do know. That's how she goes to jail. She goes to jail. Her husband goes to jail. And so does David.
That's for crimes. That's mean.
The crimes are for all of the stuff they're doing with these bodies.
I get it.
The point was, once that person's dead, for this family, at least for David and his parents, they're like, it's like luggage is what they're talking about. And for that driver, he was saying it was so drastic of a change for him seeing her like that because he's used to seeing her as this like nurturing, emotional person, and then all of a sudden she's cold.
I would have thought that, okay, that's his dad. She's probably trying to get herself ready. She's probably when we're not around, she's probably going through it.
I'm trying to keep it businesslike, and then there's I don't care. You know what I mean? Like
I don't think you can tell that she doesn't care.
I think that he could. That's why it was so jarring for him.
Oh, okay.
She was completely apathetic.
Okay.
Because she was asking for the eye status of her dad to make sure those eyes were good.
Now that you mention it.
And he was like, what? And he was like, after that call, she had no problem calling him for all the other stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
So if you go from somebody who's like super emotional most of the time and being this kind, caring person to like, just make sure you can get what you need to get. There's a difference.
I think that was more, sure. Yeah.
I don't know why you want to give this family so much benefit of the doubt.
No, I'm from a family of women who can, okay, I need to do this. But they might go break down and you'll never see it. But
in argument to like the women in your family, yeah, they might be like business first, let me knock this out. But there's still care there. There's still caring there. There's still, let me make sure this is good and that this is good. Like stuff, they would go out of their way to make sure other people are good. She wasn't doing that for her own dad, is what he was saying.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. So now we have
crimes.
Finally, they have crimes.
They're embezzling money. They're harvesting organs. They're stealing from the dead, and they're burning all these bodies in an unsatisfactory way, and not telling the families that the remains that they've got might not even be theirs.
Now these families are finding out that, hey, maybe their remains that they had weren't their loved ones.
Right.
So they go to court to get their bond. The mom and dad get like a $5,000 bond. And while they're in court, a DA goes, by the way, we're going to give David a $500,000 bond. It was like, and his attorney's arguing that's not what we worked on.
It's egregious.
And the judge pretty much goes, if I had my way, it'd be more.
He's got 37 felony counts against him.
He's a menace to society.
And he's a flight risk because he has the means to leave.
So he goes to jail. The two crackheads go to jail. Do the bodyguards or the henchmen go to jail? The drivers or anything?
They get questioned, but only the one guy is threatened with jail. The one that beat up Tim.
Johnny, one of the crackheads, who was, I guess, David's right-hand man, the cops are trying to get him to talk.
And he won't talk.
He said, I'm not talking. They put him in the, I guess, in the holding with a phone, and he's out the next morning. Meanwhile, his friend that he brought into the business, he's not talking either because he says snitches get stitches.
They're both former gang members is the other thing. Johnny and this guy are both from the same gang and they got out.
So he's not talking. I guess he calls
Lorianne
and said, what are you guys going to do? Are you guys going to help me?
Because they helped Johnny. They helped get Johnny out. So he was like, I need you guys to also help me.
And they go,
you're on your own.
You're on your own. He goes, well.
He said, bet.
I'm on my own talking. So he starts telling everything.
Starts singing. But he's not the only one. There's a lot of other former employees that also start talking to the cops.
And now we start getting all the information of how David was able to do everything they did, how they was able to get these bodies, harvest these bodies.
How long it had been going on. Yeah. And then some information comes up about Tim Waters again. They start looking back into the death of Tim Waters.
And crackhead number 2, I'll just call him, pretty much says how, I guess, David
used to boast. Yeah.
Used to boast about how he poisoned him.
Yes. And then when David's in jail, because he can't meet that bond, he tells cellmates the same thing. He's boasting about how he was able to put something in somebody's spaghetti and get away with it. And the San Bernardino police? Or LA. Yeah. One of those.
How they get the henchmen for beating up Tim Waters is they had evidence already.
But they never ran.
But they never ran fingerprints or anything
or toxicology reports, nothing.
Nothing.
So they run it now.
They do all that now. They get one of the
fingerprints
off a carton of milk, and they get one of the I guess driver/henchman bodyguards. Then
they bring him in.
They bring him in. I guess he starts squealing. They then do a toxicology report on
the blood remains they have.
Blood remains they have of Tim.
Yeah.
And they find that there was possible
oleander in the bloodstream. Oleander is a plant. It's a known poison. It used to be used by a lot of wives to get rid of their husbands.
Apparently all women know about this poisonous flower and how to kill men with. That I just found out about today.
Because it looks like milk. You can easily it's tasteless.
So now I'm just going in my backyard, making sure I don't have any stuff
keep
around.
A flower alive.
That too. But, yeah. So that's another reason why I'm fine, because someone kills everything she touches.
That's so true. But yeah. But they also they don't formally have any proof that David wasn't necessarily the person that gave this poison. But it is interesting that he keeps talking about how he basically got away with poisoning somebody.
So then they flash back to the crackhead number 2, and they said, so if you had to guess, how many people did you think David might
have murdered?
Possibly murdered. He said, off the top of my head, maybe 3.
I want to know who the 3 are. We only learned about Tim. Who's the other people?
And then we fade to black. And that was the end of episode 2.
Right.
So pretty much we just went through the first 2 episodes of The Mortician.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I didn't realize. They show a clip of David talking to the reporters back in, like, I guess it was like the late 80s, maybe early 90s.
Okay. No, it's closer to like the late 70s, early 80s.
Early 80s.
He died in 85.
Not Tim. I mean, David. David had talking to reporters.
But that was after he was arrested. So that's 86, 87.
That scene looked familiar, like I saw it on TV. It looked familiar.
Okay.
Like it was a national story.
Okay. You would have been 6.
Yeah. It looked familiar.
Okay.
But who knows? I don't know. Anywho, what got me was how many bodies he was burning. And nobody really seemed to care until one guy was like, "This, it has to be unethical what he's doing."
Nobody cared until it started hurting somebody's money.
True too.
Nobody really had anything to say until they were like, "It's eating into my profits." Wait a second, what's up? What's going on with this?
Because Tim Waters is not a nice guy either. Let's not act like he's a saint.
There's a reason they talked about the history of morticians at the beginning of this, and they talked about how like mortuary science at first was very close knit. It was like families and church services, and then it became a business model. When it became a business model in the 1800s, right after the Civil War, they weren't seen as high caliber people. Morticians were seen as grave robbers. They were known to be thieves, which is why they tried to change how they dressed.
They started dressing up in all black.
Well, all black, but suits. They were trying to dress like lawyers and doctors.
They wanted to be respected like lawyers and doctors. Yes. And eventually that happened.
The stigmatization of them not being trustworthy people lasted a long time.
Until about the 80s, 70s, or 80s.
70s and 80s, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it started to change. Kind of did.
I don't think it was as focused on.
Yeah. Yeah. Because grave robbing is pretty much had died by then.
No, grave robbery is still a thing.
Well, it's not as prevalent.
Yes, it is.
It will be prevalent in another couple of years if everything keep going the way it's going now.
You're like, it'll have a resurgence. They'll bring it back. But until then... No, like Hollywood Cemetery and stuff like that. People are notorious for.
Well, that's Hollywood Cemetery.
But what I'm saying is,
stuff.
If people know of areas where it's like a little more wealthy community that's doing their burying, they're targets for grave robbing.
I
don't think we hear about grave robbing as much because a lot of people decide to get cremated. You don't really have a body to put in the ground as much.
Yeah, more people are doing cremations.
Yeah. And honestly, it's more affordable for a lot of people. It's very expensive.
That was my first thing, that like the amount of bodies he was just burning. And then just taking out teeth and taking the jewelry and clothes and all that stuff.
For me, it was how quick he was dismissive of them being a person. He's like, that's not a person anymore. They're gone.
You know what? I respected that part.
Interesting.
Because I'm like, I expect you to have that mentality to do what you're doing. I respected that. I didn't respect what he was doing, but I respected that mentality he had. Because there's no way I can look at your dead body and see you as a human being and then just take everything from you. And then strip you. Psychologically, that'll mess me up.
What doesn't make sense to me is that part of mortuary science is the care for these bodies in thereafter. It's basically treating them as still a person for the entire duration of that procedure.
Yeah.
So for him, coming from a family of people who have done this for years, and then stipulating at the beginning, before we found out the mom had this whole other side to her, that she was a kind, caring person who also really pushed that narrative of like, these are people, start to finish. Mm-hmm. Him being so flippant about it threw me off.
It didn't throw me off until you start asking questions about how did he get like this?
The other thing was like how he was treating manhandling the bodies.
Yeah.
Talking to them, slapping them. And they keep hinting that other stuff happened. Do you know that for a while there, it was illegal for men to practice mortuary science?
Why?
Because they used to rape the bodies.
Oh, of women?
Of all the bodies.
That's different.
Women, men, children.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But you believe it, right?
Yeah.
It's not out of the realm of possibility, which is insane.
Because some people it's a fetish.
Dead bodies?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a fetish.
But the point is, so many men were doing it. So many men were doing it. Like it was almost like they had the opportunity, so they took it.
But for him to have the emotions that he had, I'm like,
it'd be one thing if he just shut it down and was like, the soul's gone, the people are gone. But he was slapping them, talking to these dead bodies, and belittling these dead bodies.
That's when I was like, when he said his grandfathers you do it, I'm like, okay, now we knew where you learned that.
You fought me on that for a while.
Because they never really talked about the grandfather. And everything we knew about the grandfather, he took everything. He was like the mom.
He took everything seriously.
Yeah, he was like the mom.
He gave a very professional projection. Yes.
Yeah. He did everything by the book. So when he finally said his grandfather, I still don't kind of believe him. I think it was somebody else working with his grandfather that he learned all that crazy stuff from.
I disagree. Human nature. I'm not compliance. What's the word? Complacency. That's the word. Complacency becomes a thing. If you run something and it's wholly yours, eventually you get comfortable with doing whatever the heck you want to do.
Now, if he said he was looking in his grandfather didn't know he was there and his grandfather doing that stuff, I'm like, okay, I see that. I can see that.
What was weird to me was that they were a thriving business in the 30s. How? Great Depression is happening. Yeah, people are still dying, but they can't pay for services in the same way that they used to. Part of the Great Depression was how prices were crashing.
Do you think they were racist?
Of course.
Okay, then. Because to me, the only other way would be you had to do funeral service for black people.
They still wouldn't have been able to pay what you wanted them to pay.
No. So.
But you can sell bodies.
I heard about, actually the Ford car thing was actually.
They pushed epigenetics. He was a prominent voice for epigenetics.
His whole business model was was by black guys. He stole black guys' ideas to start Ford.
What's that got to do with the funeral services?
And those black guys made Dodge. Okay. So back in that era, only people that had money back then, actual cash, were black people, because we weren't allowed to put our money in banks. So if he did stuff for black people, they'd be the ones that have cash. They'll be able to pay him.
They're in California. They're in Pasadena. The black community is not large.
That's all I was saying.
Now maybe Mexican community.
That's what I'm saying. What I was saying is, if they're not racist, they could have been doing business with minorities, because minorities
they were rich in the 30s. I'm talking hugely wealthy in the 30s. Even if they were doing business with the other minority communities in that area, still wouldn't have made them rich.
Seems like they were stealing and robbing graves and stealing all and doing all the stuff.
But that's my point, is like, this wasn't just David. This is a legacy of how they got by, of how they made ends meet.
Yeah.
And we got into it because you felt like it wasn't a legacy.
Because
that it was a David situation.
Because the way they got me then. The way they did it, they made it seem like the grandfather was on up and up and he did everything by the book.
I felt like you had to pay attention to how or what was being said, because it was like the grandfather was upset that David was tarnishing his name. It wasn't that he was treating his clientele a certain way, is that his name was getting dragged through the mud.
Okay, I get what you... Oh, now, okay, just click. He wasn't mad about the practices of what he was doing. He was more mad about, how dare you make me look bad.
Yes. That's what his complaint was. It wasn't he shouldn't have done this.
Not how you treated the people.
Right. You're doing a disservice to our science. He was like, you're dragging my name through the mud. Our industry.
Our industry.
Our profession.
Destroyed my name.
Yeah.
The family name. Okay.
I thought it was clever by the document. Yeah.
Well, the way they did it, they got me.
I thought it was clever because they definitely paint David to be the person that's doing all of this. And granted, he was the person that took it to new heights for sure with what he was doing. I like that it was a slow reveal of like, oh yeah, no, mom was in on it, dad, grandpa, all of them. They were all in on it, which is crazy.
I didn't know you. But watching this documentary made me think, every funeral home service that I know is a family
run business.
Family run business. I don't know any mortuary service that's just a bunch of dudes who got together and started a funeral home.
There was a scandal here of the funeral service that was happening in our area.
Really?
It was a situation where they were telling families like these were the remains of your loved one, and those weren't their remains. Because now we have the science to actually decipher the remains. So,
actually, you know what's funny? I got family members who have their own family mortuary service. That's who does all our
your services.
Yeah, for our families in that area. Which is crazy.
I don't think so. Especially in that small area. Makes sense that it's probably a cousin.
But oh man. I like how they did it, and then at the end you found out it was just not him. It's the whole goddamn family.
It wasn't an established thing. Oh yeah.
He thought it was pretty much like they were like the mafia of the funeral home business in Pasadena.
Yeah. But it also makes me wonder how many other like funeral services kind of float in the same gray area. Kind of make those decisions for themselves as well.
And I know sometimes when you see your family members after death, when they get in the casket and they make up look horrible, and you think they didn't care, now makes you think that they didn't care, that they didn't care,
right?
Because some of them, the way they put the makeup on people sometimes. Eesh.
You said eesh.
Have your family member looking like James Brown in a wig?
Sometimes they got to work with, because there's no heat on that body, and that's what makes makeup sit the way it needs to sit. And if there's none of that happening, you got to get creative. So I'm sure makeup gets real interesting when you got to put it on dead skin.
But, and also, how many people were involved?
All of them. All the people.
And how quickly a lot of these people flipped.
I don't blame them.
Especially Johnny. Johnny, like, it's done. It's over. I'm not stopping them from going in.
To Johnny's credit, he's like, they're already here. Like, I can't. There's nothing I can really do.
It's over.
David being like, try to hide the bodies. He's like, how am I going to do that?
How am I going to do that? It's too late, John. It's too late, David. It's over.
We got 200 in a kiln. How am I going to do that?
Exactly. It's like 500 bodies in that kill right now.
Explain.
It's a wrap.
There's no way. It's good.
And Johnny's like, I'm out. Johnny's like, I'm out.
He was like, whatever. Here you go. I don't know what else to tell you.
I got crack to smoke. I got to get my last rock in before I go to jail.
Here's my other question. When you're burning bodies like that and that ash is everywhere, it can get in your lungs. Some people who ran crematoriums ended up with lung cancer because of what they inhaled.
Javon, Johnny smoked crack.
But what I'm saying is,
dead ash is going to do anything to him.
But I wonder if he did get sick. I wonder if him and that guy got sick from being around all that ash.
No, Javon, that's crack.
You said just the crack alone. That's
just crack. If you look at Johnny, other than him not having his teeth, he looks pretty healthy. He's just old as hell.
Old. Anyway.
I'm just saying.
So are we going to finish out this series? Okay.
Of course.
All right. I wonder what else there is to tell. Like, what else else is there to know?
Crackhead number 2 said this dude possibly killed other people.
What else are they going to tell us? I got more questions.
Crackhead number 2 said there's possibly more bodies. They probably going to go into the other bodies, the people that end up coming up missing and dead. And we're going to probably go into those in depth.
Probably.
And those stories are going to be just as crazy and good as the stories they already told now. But how he was just shoving people in there, like folding people up like pizza box and breaking bones to fit them in
that's insane.
All them into that burner.
So crazy. Chopping off fingers so they can get to the jewelry. I was like, well, okay, wow.
And then how they was hanging them up on the hanger.
Yeah. The jewelry?
Yeah.
Yeah. They got a hanger and they just popped it on there.
How?
You undo the hanger.
But they had it sitting up like it was. They didn't.
You just put it back. Old wire hangers. You unwrap it, put every one on there, and just wrap it back. Hang it up. It's tight at the top.
Oh, I forgot about the old wire hanger. Wow. Okay.
Throwback, flashback.
Yeah, moving right along to 90 Day Fiance, episode 17. Too Late for Love.
Yeah, season 11, episode 17. Not a lot happened in this episode.
Not really. Shekinah and Sauper
cry in a hotel place.
They go to their hotel where they're gonna have their ceremony in a bed.
They're bedding. Shekinah said she found this place online. She felt like it had a lot of light that she wanted. The feng shui was right. And then when they get there, she's upset because it's a hotel room.
The floor is scuffed up. The bed is not in the place where the nice chandelier is. My thing is, you're from LA. You know all the great, amazing hotels. Why didn't you go to that one? Then it dawned on me, maybe it's just for
the show.
But
the other thing is, you need those hotels have to sign waivers to have production there.
Oh, so you think this is the only one that's
that said yes.
Signed the waiver. Oh,
but the other thing is, it's also still a hotel. A lot of people stay in hotels. A lot of them.
So,
what made me laugh out loud was Sarper being like, "Are you sad?" She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Of course." It was hilarious.
We also find out which made me go, She paints it as Sarper having all these wanting to look a certain way.
What?
She makes it seem like Sarper wants them to look a certain way or look at a certain aesthetic for her to look like and for him to look like.
Okay.
When it's really her pushing this.
Okay, the aesthetic. Okay.
Yeah, because she's the one with all the picture leg in this hyperbolic chamber bags and sleep with these bags.
She's a cosmetologist.
Put this mask on your face, sleep with. But in front of her friends, she make it seem like it's Sarper.
All him.
It's all him.
Yeah.
It's only him. Trying to make her live up to these crazy expectations of looks.
Yeah.
When it's really her.
It's both.
I think it's her.
Early Sarper was just as menial. That whole weight thing didn't come out of nowhere.
I'm not talking about early Sarper. I'm talking about Sarper now.
I'm just saying. He also has a history of being real critical.
Let's not act like he hasn't done a lot of work and he's a totally different person now.
I don't know about totally different, but he has had growth. I'll say that.
When we first started watching it, everybody hated Sarper. He was
true.
Public enemy number one. Now he's done everything she's asked. Mm-hmm. And he's gone above and beyond. And she's just been spitting in his face little by little every step of the way since he got to LA.
Yeah.
That's my take. But yours might be different. I don't know. But that's how I see it. So she calls, I guess, her wedding planner. They move the bed. They have the people come in for the hotel and help them move the bed to the living room. And she's fine. She feels better. And she put some lights on the bar. Mm-hmm. And then we'll go from there. She's like, cool. She's happy. Sarper on the other hand is going down, down, down. Every minute, every hour.
More of his soul is leaving his body. Yeah.
So we will see if he's in bed next week.
For the betting.
For the betting. Mark and Mina. This whole thing boils down to her son not being able to be there for the wedding. And if she's going to still go through with the wedding. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, because she finds out that they're not going to be able to get this passport in time for her son. And she's very upset because she already promised her son that he would make it. Why she would do that, I don't know. But she did. And now she is heartbroken and doesn't know how to tell him. And her sister's like, I need you to suck it up and tell him. He needs to know sooner rather than later. So she calls and makes a difficult call to her son. They both cry. Also,
her son could feel like her mom's picking a guy over him.
Maybe.
Because every time she's just telling him she can't do this, she can't do that.
Yeah.
So
she shares the bad news. But she kind of makes a peace with it. They both make a peace with it basically, and they're going to move forward with the wedding.
They decided to move forward with the wedding?
Mm-hmm. That was what the preview was for next week with Mark's daughter being like, just because she's marrying into the family, blah 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 blah.
Spoiler: Mina might be pregnant.
I think she's joking. I don't think that's true. But anyway,
she should say it at the wedding. While they doing the toast. So the
right after he says I do, I'm pregnant.
so the daughter can faint in her goddamn chair, have a heart attack,
just boil with rage.
Damn. Greg and Joan, the worst couple of this whole show.
In my opinion, the best couple. They actually like each other.
Stop.
And he's after his nice surprise for the party before the wedding. We see her get ready to go get married. We see that Greg figures out how to get everybody there instead of being there right when they would be saying their vows. Get there a little bit earlier. And he is just so enamored with her when she comes down the aisle. She looks gorgeous. The makeup and the hair, everything looks great. They get married. They say their I do's. They're now married.
So now he can officially live off the black woman. Great for him.
Okay.
Good for him. I have nothing to say about this horrible couple.
All right, then move on to the next one.
Maddie and Stevie. I guess Stevie has finally told Maddie that she's not gay. And Maddie is very happy.
was so bizarre. Her confession that she had no idea that he was serious and just really needed a yes or no answer this whole time. She's like, I honestly did not know. We could have saved ourselves so much grief. You think?
But I take that back. One person is not convinced. Maddie's friend is not convinced that she's not gay.
No, I don't think it's that he's not convinced. He's worried about what else she hasn't told him, because there was a lot she kept from him.
What? She got kids? Probably. Does he know she has kids?
I don't know. They don't touch on it at all in the show. In real life, we know she got kids. I don't know if they ever touch on it in the show. But his point was like she hid him from her family for so long.
Do her kids even stay with her?
Yeah.
How many does she have?
3. She was married before.
That's a lot.
She was married before.
That's a lot.
So, but they end up going through with their nuptials as well.
That explains a lot. Did they even get married on the show?
They're gonna show them getting married next episode.
Okay, Aaliyah and Sean. This was the most depressing wedding I've ever seen in my life.
How are they not the worst couple?
It's not the worst wedding I've seen in my life. It might be the most depressing.
How are they not the worst couple?
Because they're in a better place than Greg and Joan.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they?
At least they're honest with each other.
Are they?
Anywho, Sean goes to the staging house, scolds Aaliyah, then goes back to the altar.
Yeah, basically.
And Aaliyah finally gets there, comes down the aisle. They said, do you take Sean to be your lawful wedded husband? She goes, I do. She says, Sean, do you take Aaliyah to be your lawful wedded wife? He says, I do. By the power vested in me, you guys are now Mr. and Mrs. Sean and Aaliyah, whatever his goddamn last name is. That was the whole ceremony right there.
Yeah, because she took a long time.
Aaliyah was shocked. They go to the dining hall. They stand there, wait for a little bit.
He's not talking to Aaliyah.
He's not talking to her.
He's not talking to her at all.
Finally, they come in. Everybody comes in. They sit down. They eat.
Aaliyah's trying to like lighten the mood and talk, and Sean doesn't want to do it at all.
Aaliyah feels bad about his mom. She's like, you should go to the hospital, whatever. So we start doing toast. And here where it really goes left. His aunts or whatever, or sister.
That was his sister and a cousin.
Cousin says a toast. Nice, beautiful little toast. To the bride and groom, pretty much, coming to America. Then Sean reciprocates their toast with, I'm sorry you had to wait 9 hours for one person who couldn't get out of themselves to respect everybody's time and come down the aisle at a respectable time. Sorry everything was so fast and last and quick. But thanks for showing up. Mm-hmm. Leah. So now Leah's like, and his sister and cousin like, why the fuck would you say that?
Yeah, what? And he just ignores everything to drink. And Leah's like, huh? What? Tears. It was so sad.
Leah's friend is like, what? Then I guess we fast forward to where we were at the start, episode 1
of this season.
This season. So episode 1, we see them sitting on the beach in beach chairs talking about the wedding. I thought
they're not on a beach. They're at a table.
At a table, whatever. They're probably in the well, she's gonna be the beach, and I'm gonna be right. And she's not gonna tell you.
I'm gonna keep this recording.
They're talking about the wedding. And I thought it was a wedding that they attempted to have or tried to have in Brazil before he left that went awry. Apparently, it was a wedding that they just had the last episode. They just decided to start their season or episode at the point of them talking after they got married.
What were they talking about?
If they should have gotten married.
Yeah, you should say that. You should clarify that at some point.
Which doesn't make sense. If you feel you shouldn't have gotten married, then why did you get married in the first place?
That's what all of Sean's friends were asking him. Because he kept saying, like, for now. And they were like, what do you mean? For now? What do you mean? They kept saying that.
And apparently he had an epiphany where he said, Aaliyah will never be able to think of anybody but herself. I'm like, dude, it
was real rich coming from Sean. That's what I would say.
I'm like,
real rich.
Because a person who takes forever to get dressed, that's repeatedly took him forever to get dressed, and you didn't do your due diligence to make sure that you give her a fake time to be there. That's her fault.
What doesn't make sense to me is that she left her entire life and family behind to live with you and marry you. Why is that selfish? Because she took longer to get ready? I don't understand. Confused.
They don't even know. Americans don't care about the outcome. They care about what happened.
Okay. I also felt like him saying that she's selfish is her wanting to change her body. He also viewed that as selfish.
That's the selfish thing he's talking about.
That's what I think it is.
It has nothing to do with her getting dressed.
That's what I think it is.
Because I'm assuming when she went by her old name,
mm-hmm.
she took just as long to get dressed.
Yeah, but it wasn't a problem then. But it's a problem now. And the more that Sean sees the change, the more Sean's like, I hate this.
Fuck this bitch.
But rather than break up, he's just gonna drag this out. So yeah.
Juan and Jessica.
Who cares?
The end.
No, they weren't in this last episode. They didn't really show them.
He's still trying to get her to teach his kid Spanish.
They didn't show them at all. So
moving on to the last couple. Amani, Ani, and Matt.
Yes. Like an idiot. Amani is like, all right, we just put out one fire. Let's start another one. Which one of us are you going to marry? Ani.
Instead of just being, hey, you're going to marry me.
Yeah. Yeah. I discussed it because Matt would have said yes. I discussed it with Matt. We're getting married. Boom, boom, boom. Nope.
I think she picked Matt because it was the easiest and he's the easiest to get along with.
You keep saying the easiest. Filing for marriage as a same-sex couple versus a straight couple, especially in California, it's the same process. It's not harder. It's the same process.
Well, the government can possibly overturn one, not the other.
Well, technically, they could overturn the other one, too.
But that's more about something happened. Anywho, she picked the easy goer, which is Matt.
She explained why she chose Matt. Because Amani's like, I'm just trying to understand, one, why it's not me. But
Amani,
two,
the look Amani gives
Amani.
I don't give a damn. Angry woman is like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait till y'all go to sleep. I'm going to burn this bitch down with y'all in it.
Her asking in the first place was like, which one of us do you want to marry? It was very clear. She was like, there's only one right answer. Go. Which one?
I don't know.
It was hilarious.
I think she likes me mad.
Well, that is what Ani says. She says Amani loves the drama. She loves chaos. So she felt like if she chose Amani could out on a dime decide that she's not going to marry Ani or hold it over Ani's head that she can take away her rights as a spouse at any moment versus Matt, which I agreed with the logic.
Did she tell Amani that?
Yeah, she says it when she's explaining why she chose Matt versus Amani.
So apparently she didn't hear none of that. All she heard is, you're choosing Matt.
Well, that's why Amani was like, maybe I shouldn't have rushed her to say that she loves me more. Like, she starts reflecting on all the conversations where she just kind of like cornered Ani. She's like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And she would have chose differently.
She doesn't care. All she heard is, you chose Matt.
Hilarious.
Scorched earth.
Scorched earth.
She like, Matt, don't get it twisted. I'll leave you and just leave everything.
What cracked me up was Matt being like, I'm not going to be her husband and I'm not just going to be Amani's husband. You know, we're all together. Matt, what?
Amani's like, I don't give a fuck. She didn't pick me. I don't care what you say.
Here's my question. In terms of legality, if Amani and Matt decide to divorce, what does that mean in terms of money? Like, because she was the provider. I mean, technically they're all going to be staying together or whatever, but like in legal terms, how does this all work out for them?
Matt will have to figure out some way to pay alimony to her.
If they file for alimony, you have to file for alimony.
If
they might
happens,
not.
Whoever's the breadwinner.
Well, that would be Amani then. Amani's the breadwinner, not Matt. Matt's the stay-at-home dad.
Let Matt be getting some money. But if she's coming from another country.
Who, Amani?
Yeah, she don't have a job.
Amani? Amani's the breadwinner.
I mean, Ani.
Yeah, Ani won't have a job.
Yeah.
But Matt also doesn't work.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. How does this work when they get their divorce?
Oh, when I'm sorry. I thought you talked about Ani. If Ani and Matt got divorced, if they ever got married and got divorced, how that would she had to pay alimony.
But my other thing is for him to
unless he claims it. But I think what happened is if they're going to do it, he's just going to take. We're just going to get divorced.
Typically, you have to source your income when you're filing for a K-1 visa, saying like how much money you make in a year. If he's not working, how's that work? Yes, I'm marrying this person, and I want to be their sponsor for coming into the States, but I don't work. How's that work?
Well, it looks like Ani is going to have to marry the person that she doesn't want to marry.
Well, you know what? I should take that back. Remember the dude who went to the Philippines? What's his face?
Yeah, what about him?
He wasn't working, and he was for sure going to marry, what's her name?
Yeah.
And bring her over.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a way to do it.
Yeah. Oh. But that's 90 Day Fiance.
Yeah.
Moving on to 90 Day Hunt for Love. Nothing really happened.
Not really. It was just a continuation.
It was pretty much a continuation. Rob and what's her face? What's this crazy lady name?
Elise.
Pretty much keep going at it. And I guess Elise is finally call it quits with
Rob.
Now Rob is trying to pursue Jennifer, but she's also talking to a guy named Cole, and now he's pretty much trying to cop block that from happening. Jennifer pretty much gets in it with Tim again.
Well, Courtney tells Tim that Jen has been talking about his whole buy her a stripper to dance for her situation. Tim gets all in Jennifer's face for some reason.
So I guess they went to a club or something. So all of them.
They're not at a club, they're at a bar. They're at the outdoor bar at the resort.
They say they were going to a club. Well, that's what Courtney said.
She was talking about Jen going to the club and then Tim buying the dancer.
No. Courtney was like, I'm going back to my element. I thought they were going to like a little mini club. They went to the bar, like you said. It's pretty much a bar / I guess club. It's like a bar club outside thing, the resort. They're all there. Them, the 90 Dayers, and the NPCs, they're all there hanging out, having a good time, talking, whatever. Courtney goes and tells, like Javon said, Tim that, hey, Jennifer said you bought a lap dance for the man and you liked, for her, with a man, you liked it. What's her name?
Tiffany?
Tiffany goes, okay, this is going to start some shit.
Yeah.
I don't know why Courtney keeps gossiping.
No, she said, I know Courtney is trying to be on everybody's good side by sharing the gossip, but she's like, even though Tim says he's not affected by it, he's absolutely going to be affected by this. And then Tim goes and talks to Jennifer.
Courtney, to me, gossiping is her conversation. That's her conversation. She doesn't know how to have a one-on-one conversation without gossiping.
I think she knows how to have a one-on-one conversation.
I don't think she can.
I think
because every conversation she's really had this whole time.
Because she's talking with the girls where it's just her talking. It's not her gossiping.
It's one thing talking to a girl. It's nothing being able to talk to a guy.
You're saying overall she can't have a conversation with a person. That's not true.
If you listen to most of her conversations, it's...
You can't say that she can have a conversation with the girls and then all of a sudden say that she can't. Which one is it?
I don't think she can really have a conversation without it being mainly gossip.
I'm also saying you got to pay attention to the context that we're learning this. This is 90 Day.
Sure. Okay, whatever. Tim goes over, confronts Jennifer. Jennifer goes, kiss my ass.
She basically was like, did I lie? Where in there did I lie?
Who tries to step in and then try to get her back.
Because he's really in her face. He's like really, really up in her face.
And then all of a sudden,
Chantel
comes from nowhere, jumps in Jennifer's face and trying to stand up for Tim, which I think she's not about that life, but apparently Javon thinks she's about that life.
I like how you conveniently forget how she got in River's boyfriend's face.
Because she knew he wasn't going to do anything.
But my point is, you make it sound like she's not capable of reaching that level of anger, and she absolutely is.
What I'm saying to you is, it's another thing to do.
She also did it to what's his face, Pedro's sister. She also did it to her
from a distance.
No, in her face. Remember, that's when she threw the glass, and they had to pull them apart, and they had to drag her away.
That's when Pedro's sister had to bust her face with the glass.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, she did it then too, and she did it to the best friend. She did it to what is his sister's name? Nicole's best friend.
I think
there's been several instances where we've seen Chantel get to that point.
And mainly is always somebody in the middle.
But what I'm saying is she is capable of doing that. And you made it sound like innocent Chantal is not capable of reaching those levels.
What I'm saying to you is I don't think she's about that life. Meaning, anytime that's happened, it's always a body in between her and that person.
And that was what was happening again. She knew it was going to get broken up. Cole got in between them.
Okay, I get it. Sure. But at some point, your ass, you wanted to cash one of them checks.
You can say that. I don't know why you think Chantal is this innocent, fragile little bird.
I'm not saying she's innocent or fragile. You're mistaking me saying I don't think that's her being she's innocent or fragile. I'm just saying I think she's trying to do something out of character to make herself look like she's something that she's not. That's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is I don't think we can know a person based on just watching them on television.
True. Whatever, sure. So we have that. We have Colt trying to talk to. Did we get her name?
May is at the bottom.
May. He's trying to flirt with May. May instantly goes, "You're not my type. No, thank you."
May's an NPC. We know nothing about May. We know nothing about this person at all. She just shows up. We've seen her in a couple of scenes, and that's it. Colt's also very awkward in dancing, and he is sweating up a storm.
So this dude is sweating like
like a monsoon.
Yes.
Like waves crashing.
Like a tsunami.
It's ridiculous.
Like Niagara Falls. He's sweating like Niagara Falls.
I was like, is it raining? Where's the storm? Why is he like
so
this?
He's white person dancing out there. I don't know what rhythm he's hearing in his head, but it's like
it looked like he was fighting ghosts. That's what it looked like. The demons got him, and he was. The
demons have got me.
He was keeping them away.
The spirits have got me. And I'm like,
because it was aggressive. Like it didn't make any sense.
It's like watching a baby think they know what they're doing when they're dancing, and even a baby has better rhythm at some point. Even a baby at least catches the rhythm.
It just looked real rough. It just looked real rough.
It's like the robot running man.
But jerky, like angry. Like an angry robot.
The jerk, the mashed potato, all in one.
But all aggressive. And just really angry. Like Chantel comes up there and she's like, well, stop. You're not, slow it down.
And that still doesn't work.
No.
So we talked about Colt, Tiffany.
Courtney feels bad for Colt. And she like tries to make sure he's okay. She's saying little things like she is starting to find him handsome and whatnot. That's not going to go anywhere.
But she's still interested in
stupid Usman.
On Soldier Boy, tell him. Tiffany is still deciding between her two NPCs, Rocky and the other NPC.
I don't know his name. Other NPC is the name, not Rocky.
Because I guess they got Rocky doing handstand or something crazy.
They call him porn stash. They get him to do a handstand. I don't know why they want him to do a handstand on the dance floor, but they do.
He does have, he has. It seems to me he has more of a Hitler mustache than a porn stash. I want to say it was Ron Jeremy, but it's not Ron Jeremy.
Might as well.
Like the Hitler / Michael Jordan Hanes commercial mustache.
It's so random. Maybe. Might have interest in one of the guys there. It doesn't really go anywhere.
Another NPC who you don't know.
It doesn't go nowhere. It gets real weird. She cracks a joke about micro penises.
Yes. And how you.
But I did learn something. I didn't know that you can go to a cosmetologist and ask for more girth.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel safe. I don't know how safe is this. How long does it last?
I wouldn't know.
I got questions.
I don't care.
I want to know. Rob, what did you think about Rob trying to get Jennifer?
So now Rob's trying to get Jennifer, and I guess they're going to go back to his room and
play some games.
That's what Jennifer wants. Jennifer wants a man to take it. I keep telling you that. You keep saying, no, she doesn't. She wants you.
I said she doesn't want rape. You said she does.
Sound like she does, because any man who is aggressive and just takes it, she likes it.
She likes passion, which I think is different, because she's consenting to it. She doesn't want somebody just to do it.
Passion can lead to being over aggressive, which can lead to rape.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
But you made it sound like she's just looking for somebody to rape her.
Yeah.
No.
I think that's what it is.
No.
My opinion and the opinion of We Like That podcast.
No. His opinion alone. I didn't blame Elise for having the feelings that she had around Rob. Like, it's still being like unresolved. and her getting mad again. Rob was taking me out with him being blindsided by it. He's like, I don't know why she's like this. You have not told this woman clearly she's no longer even an option. You're keeping the door open for her as a just in case, which is why this is streaming out the way it is. Either it's done or it's not. So Elise makes her decision.
That's the only thing I would say yeah to.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he's still shocked when she goes off makes no sense to me. She's been going off since she's been there.
Yeah. This is like the third one.
Ever since he pretty much ignored her.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he's shocked by that now. Still.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it for 90 Day Hunt for Love episode 3.
Yeah.
It wasn't too much.
Barely anything.
Hopefully, I think 4 is where we're gonna get all the. I think 4 is gonna pick up and we can get all the juiciness and all the stuff, and then I think episode 5 is gonna be another one like kind of
ebb and flow.
Yeah, because pretty much it's been up and down, up and down. I think Courtney is gonna be the Angela of this season.
Speaking of Angela, what did you think of her owing $200,000 to her husband, former husband Michael?
I'm not shocked.
I was.
No, I'm not. First of all,
200,000.
She's a redneck from the middle of nowhere, Georgia.
200,000 though.
You think she really doesn't have money to go to Africa like that by herself? No.
The way the show had it pinned was that she was making the most money and she was sending him money. Like that's how the show pushed that forever. So to find out later that he actually gave her that much money, I was shocked. And her confirming it, her agreeing. I was shocked.
I knew she was just crazy to be crazy. I knew it. I told you that. I told you from the first time I saw her, when she saw toes in the picture, I'm like, she's not healthy.
That's still my favorite part of 90 Day.
She's not healthy.
I saw you on the boat, and it's like,
I'm like, there's a guy, and there might be a female.
It's a knee. Like, wait,
I'm like, there's a toe and a knee. Are you mad?
I see the women you have on the boat with you. Do you?
Like, what women? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this bitch saw a toe.
It was hilarious.
That could be connected to a guy. That toe could have been connected. That leg could have been connected to another guy. That was
hilarious.
And she lost it.
It
was a whole episode of argument of a toe and a kneecap in the photo.
And they showed the photo, and you're like, wait, what? Wait, where's the lady? Wait, what? Hilarious.
And I was like, she is another level of crazy. I'm like, this.
It was hysterical.
I'm like, she's just angry. She doesn't know. I'm like, she's angry to be angry because she only knows angry.
He stuck with it forever. For so long.
Because I think he thought this is how all American women are.
I don't know.
They don't have this type of passion in Africa.
Oh my gosh. Never say that again. Anyway, so yeah. You got any other shows you've been watching?
Started Mortician like I wanted. No, not really. Oh, it's a 1,000-pound roommates, I think it's called. I think I want to start watching that.
I don't want to watch it.
I want to watch it. I want to laugh.
I feel bad. Because it's fat black women. I don't.
And it make you get off the couch and go to the gym.
Does it?
It's supposed to be inspirational. It's inspirational to get you.
Does
to move.
it?
Yes. Yes.
You don't go to the gym, Calvin.
I guarantee I jog around this house. I do some push-ups. I do some sit-ups. I go stand in the heat because it's hot outside. Just go stand in there.
Just stand in it?
Yeah, just stand outside. You're sweating.
That doesn't make sense.
Put on a bunch of black stuff and you just sweat.
That doesn't make sense.
Gonna trick you to get in the backyard.
I want to watch Rom-Con. There's a documentary on Amazon Prime about this dude who just had a lot of lies, and he was stringing along a lot of women into thinking they were in these long-term relationships with him, and he was getting a lot of money.
Oh, catfishing. Great.
Kind of. I don't know. No, he was real. Is it still a catfish if the person's real?
Yes.
Okay. Or just lying. I don't know. So yeah, that's what I want to watch. But that's it, unless you got anything else.
I never do.
Thank you for listening to We Like That podcast.
So we like that.
Go ahead and click that subscribe button. You know you want to. And rate us 5 stars. I'm Javon.
I'm Calvin.
Later, people.
And we're out.